Hi there, everybody. I'm Josh Zirkle, and I am the Director of Community at Evernote. We are live from London with our special productivity expert, Francesco D'Alessio. Super excited to share some great productivity tips with you today. Francesco, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Josh.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Francesco, why don't you take a moment, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure, yeah. So my name's Francesco. I'm a student at the moment, studying in Plymouth, which is down in the southwest of the UK. But I'm also a YouTuber and Evernote community leader. So I cover everything Evernote and productivity apps on my YouTube channel. But I also work for a couple of tech startups, so I get myself really hands in with those guys. Mm-hmm. And as you know, Josh, I love apps. Yes. I love productivity. So yeah, and of course, a massive Evernote fan. So.
And we appreciate it. And honestly, if you haven't checked out his YouTube channel, it's pretty awesome. There's a lot of great tips there, and we'll share with you how you can get in touch with Francesco a little bit later.
Thank you. Brilliant.
So you have a pretty non-traditional work life. Can you tell us a little bit about how you manage your day and how you manage your projects?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, I work remotely. For those who don't know what working remotely is, it's just being able to work from your home or a cafe or anything else like that, just not necessarily in an office environment. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, I'm working freelance, so I get to work with some great startups, but I get to work in cafes or at my home office. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's untraditional in a way, but I sort of am able to manage it quite well at the moment, and I've been working remotely for a year and about a half now, mm-hmm. And I've picked up some really handy tips and tricks. But yeah, so in terms of managing projects, I tend to have a pretty structured routine. Mm-hmm. So I work with some Asian companies in the morning, and then in the afternoon tends to be with some US companies. So I'll either spend my time at home or I'll go to a cafe for the day. Mm-hmm. I personally really like the way that it's set up at the moment, and I hope to continue.
Do you find that you work differently when you work from a cafe versus working from home, or is it kind of the same thing? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, at the moment, I try my best to work from, be as flexible as I can. So if I feel like when I wake up, I'm like, I want to go to a cafe, I can go to a cafe. But the way I tend to do it at the moment is if I want to work on content, mm-hmm. which means I need an environment which is pretty soundproof, mm-hmm. Or I need to create any sort of deep work content, so that could be writing an over 1,000-word piece blog, I tend to work at home because cafes, you can tend to bump into local people. Mm-hmm. They can naturally be a distraction, which is absolutely fine. Mm-hmm. But if I'm working on quite light stuff, maybe some meetings, admin, then I'll go out to a cafe, mm-hmm. And I'll tend to do that 3 times a week, because I really enjoy going to cafes.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because even I personally, I work out of the Evernote office most of the time.
Yeah.
I try to match the type of work that I'm doing to the space where I need to do it. Yeah. So for me, also, I do a lot of content creation, so going someplace quiet is really important for me, so I have that focused work time and I'm able to work without distraction.
Yeah, it's one of the best ways to work, I think. Mm-hmm. I just, when I'm in that zone, and no one else can stop me, which is great. Mm-hmm. And maybe with a cafe, you might get someone to come in and have a chat, which is
it can be nice.
It can be nice, but dangerous.
Sure. What are some of the types of works that you do like doing from a cafe?
I like doing emails and calls, like the sort of stuff that takes between 5 and 10 minutes to do, mm-hmm. Just because they're sort of like, it feels like I'm more productive in a sense, because like when you have 5 to 10 minute tasks, you can just reel through them quite fast. So mm-hmm. I like that sort of work in mm-hmm. cafes.
More of the light work than the deep work.
Yeah, that's like. It. Yeah. 100%.
Makes sense. So I know you use Evernote quite a bit for a lot of the things that you do, both as a student and now as someone who's working. How did you first get into using Evernote, and what are some of the ways you use Evernote now to help you stay productive? Yeah,
sure. So I found Evernote when I was like 15, I think it was. So I remember I was in my room, I had one of those iPod touches, mm-hmm. and I just discovered this app as one of my first apps, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. When I first started using it, I was using it for school only, but now I've sort of evolved to being able to use it for both college, mm-hmm. school, personal life. So it's been a real hub for me, and I've grown into it as well. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of my journey with it. But I use it at the moment in a sort of note, like I have 4 core stacks. Mm-hmm. Those 4 core stacks are basically allowing me to have projects, areas, resources, and archives. That way I can keep organized in my day, mm-hmm. and I can just fit everything inside of there.
Sounds like it's working quite well for you.
Yeah, it keeps everything organized, and whenever stuff I think in the future comes into my head, I just put it inside of Evernote, and then it's there. I don't have to think about it. I try and go off. I read the GTD book when I was like 15, quite a weird kid, but
I would say highly motivated kid.
highly motivated kid. But I actually started applying that stuff where he talked about trying to avoid keeping stuff in your head, put it down on paper. I tried doing that, and it has worked really well for me because I started noticing it in school when I first started using GTD and Evernote. I was using that, and then I was like, whoa, schoolwork's getting easier. Whoa, side projects getting easier. And then I was slowly progressing, and I was like, wow, this is working somehow. And I just continued to build on that.
Interesting. I know a lot of people have the intention to have this sort of result, to get more organized and be more productive. It can be challenging. What are some of the ways that, as you run into productivity challenges along the way, as all of us do, that you've found to overcome them? What gets you over that next hump when something isn't working as well as you expected it to?
Do you mean in the context of like being in a rut, or like?
Well, not so much being in a rut, but like you're trying a strategy and it's just not working.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, approaching stuff from a million angles is probably the best thing that I've done. I mean, along with being organized, I try and be as proactive as I can. So when I'm being organized, the time I save I do use. I don't necessarily sit back and relax. I could, but I choose not to. And in that sense, I am able to try the way that if something doesn't work for me, I will try 10 to 20, 30 other little experiments to try and fix it. Probably like you work.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like when I've worked with clients of my own on productivity, a lot of them have thought like the first thing they try has to be the thing that works.
Yeah.
But really I found for myself and with a lot of people that I've worked with, and maybe this has been true for you, it's a constant evolution and a constant tweaking of systems to find what fits. And it's never done.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's like you might find a new tool, or you might have a different project, and you might need to switch your strategies over time. Have you found that to be true?
100%, yeah. I don't think anything's ever done. I think it's continually improving.
I agree. So I know that you work both on your own, doing freelance work, and you also work with teams. You're on multiple teams because you're working with clients. How have you found strategies to stay productive with a group, and what are some of the things that you're doing that help you stay organized and productive with them?
Yeah, sure. So obviously I get to work with some really amazing people in my teams, and that's really exciting because I get not only to work with myself, but work with some really awesome people around the world. But the thing with that is that I try and keep with my energy levels or my attention levels. So I would use the inactive, active, and proactive approach. So any inactive stuff is short periods of time, and inactive is team communication. So I'll try and communicate with my team in inactive time. Active time, I will communicate with the team, but it will tend to be associated around a project. But then proactive time, unless I'm there, I will probably be doing content or something really heavy, which will remove me from the team. So I've been able to sort of work through, I mean, every team's different. If you join a new team, you'll have a new experience.
Right.
But it's being able to adapt to that team quite fast, work out what works for them, what works for you, just having really clear communication, I think.
And what are some of your strategies for getting everyone on the same page, whether it's making sure that everyone can find everything in one spot or everyone knows where everything is? How have you managed that?
Sure. So, I mean, with teams, I really try and make, whenever I do something fresh, like a new project or a new proposal or something like that, I'll tend to send an Evernote note over to them because they can access it through public link, even if they don't have Evernote, which is great. And it helps me summarize everything with checklists and images and annotations and all that sort of stuff. So that's probably the approach that I use when I'm proposing something new to the team.
Now, I see a question here from Lori, and I know you'd mentioned this in one of your videos. If you're using Google Docs, for instance, which I'm guessing you use with some of your clients, how do you integrate that with Evernote to keep everything organized?
Yeah, so I use the Google Drive integration inside of Evernote, and if I have a new project, I'll do all of my stuff inside of Evernote, but I'll attach any files that are relevant to it so that they can access that really quickly. So that's been one of the best tips that I found. Just activate that as soon as you can and start using it.
Yeah, I know for us at Evernote, we use Google Docs also. For instance, like if I have a spreadsheet, I'm not going to create a spreadsheet in Evernote. It's not really designed for that, but I'll link out to a Google Sheets document and link to it directly from within Evernote. And that's one way that you can use the best of both tools together.
Definitely, yeah. I've found connecting up Google Drive to be recently really helpful.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
like, I was impressed.
yeah.
When we came out with that, even I was impressed, and I worked there, so.
I loved it.
So what are some of your favorite Evernote tips?
I would say that not as many people as I like are using the Evernote inbox as much. So I have inside of my Evernote, I have 4-key stack, but I also have a separate notebook, which is my inbox. And that's just a default notebook inside of Evernote. You can set that quite easily. Once you have that set up, it's a great way for emailing into stuff. So I'll either use the Newton integration that I have or the Evernote email specifically. And if I just have anything that I want to store for later, train tickets, PDFs, travel information, absolutely anything like that, I'm just sending it forward onto there and it's saving straight away. And it saves them all so well if you've got images, so you don't have to like hunt for stuff later in email necessarily.
Yeah, I personally am also a big fan of using the inbox strategy. So in Evernote, every account comes with the default inbox. Yeah, and I also see that most people don't really use it.
Yeah, so they should.
You should. It makes things a lot easier because it can be your clearinghouse for stuff, kind of like a limbo state for when you put things in Evernote, and then you can decide where they go later. That way you don't have to worry about, if I collect it now, where should I put it? Just put it in your inbox, and that way you can sort it later, right?
Oh, definitely, 100%.
It makes it a lot easier, I think.
Yeah.
So if you are just joining us, welcome to our Facebook Live event here from London. We're here with productivity expert Francesco D'Alessio, one of our Evernote community leaders. Francesco, tell us a little bit about when you're working from these different environments, from a cafe or from a co-working space like General Assembly or WeWork. What are some of the tips that you'd share with people if they're starting to think about like new and different ways and spaces of working where they can stay productive from these different types of environments?
Sure. So what I recommend is from a cafe, it's always a bit tougher because you've got other people around you. But one thing I would recommend is I've actually got really friendly with my local cafe. So I've actually been able to sort out like a system where they can watch my stuff while I'm off doing stuff, which is nice because you sort of build up a bit of trust. That's a nice environment to be in. So when you're in a cafe, I would say try and build a relationship with the people behind the cafe. It sounds a silly tip, but it's actually very helpful.
Well, it's kind of like they're your office manager in a way, if you're using it as your office.
Yeah, it's like having a chat with the office manager and just working out what you want from the experience. So that's been very handy. But from home, I try to just eliminate my phone sometimes. So I'll just put my phone on the other side of the room, or I actually have notifications off most of the time on the side switch and on the bottom pull down from my iPhone. I just switch them off all day. If people want to get in touch, then it will tend to be through like portals like email or through Slack, which is very handy.
Yeah, I personally subscribe to a similar strategy. I don't find notifications particularly useful because there are so many. It's hard to keep track of what's actually important.
That's it.
So I personally, and this doesn't work for everyone, but I choose a more deliberate, like I will check email at these points, I will check Slack at these points, because otherwise I'm probably busy doing something else.
100%.
So being interrupted doesn't help me.
No, I agree. The one thing that I did is on Facebook, I turned off all notifications on the Facebook Messenger. It's a lifesaver because each one comes through and like, why?
But it's nice to know that people are thinking about
but calm down,
but
guys.
Maybe not right then. So I know that you have an interesting strategy with a calendar inside of Evernote. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I've just done a video on it actually called How I Plan Inside of Evernote. It's actually been something I discovered in the last 6 months. Something I didn't think would work because I try a lot of the different experiments inside of Evernote just to make sure that I'm testing all of the functions. But the one thing that has come out of it is this calendar technique. So I'll put the title of the thing I want to do. So for example, I'll use it for my content calendar. I'll have the title of the video, the date, the status of it, and then any notes. And I can just scroll up and see all of the things I've got coming up in advance. It has been a lifesaver and a great way to keep myself organized, especially being able to travel in any situation because I've got Evernote offline. So I can access it, I can make modifications, I can keep that updated.
It sounds really handy. How did you create this?
Tables. So I created a 4-row and then just use a tab to extend it if I needed to. So it's really simple to make. It's probably not too intricate. Like anyone can do it, so it's an easy way to get started. But just so much of a time saver.
Sounds like it would be very helpful to have, especially if you're trying to manage a lot of different projects or pieces.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it can be applied to a lot of your own projects for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone who is joining us. We are here live in London. I have a question about when you're working with small business people, and it sounds like you're working with startups mostly right now.
Yeah.
What are some of your tips for them to stay organized into and outside of Evernote?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, small businesses, their sort of main focus is to try and grow as fast as they can, which is great, but being organized is important. When I started a business in university with my friends, we were constantly keeping organized with stuff, and we found so much value from it because we weren't like spending hours like trying to find something. We would save everything into something like Evernote or Google Drive, and we're just constantly making this base of data that we could just mine when we needed it. The other thing I would say is don't stress yourself out by like having to store things in your head. If a phone number or someone's name or someone's business card comes through, like gets given to you, don't store them all in your pocket.
Yeah.
Take photos of them, use the scanning function, and also just make sure you have that extra so that you just put them in a folder, don't have to worry about them. Then when that situation comes up when you need it, you've got it, and you don't have to worry.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because one of the challenges that I see from people a lot is having information in many different places.
Yeah.
And trying to remember, where did I put this, where did I put that?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're putting the same type of information in multiple different places.
That's it, yeah.
So I really like what you're saying about trying to consolidate and keep things together, especially within a work group. It makes things a lot easier.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And it's incredible how things build up. So the reason I have the archive stack in Evernote is because I have all my old projects there. So when I was 15 and 16 and I had all my courseworks or all my events that I attended, I've got them all there still. So I've got like a history of my life in there. So it's like a database, right?
Well, I think that's one of the interesting things about you in particular is you started using Evernote as a student.
Yeah.
And you've brought it into your work life.
Yeah.
How has that evolution been for you? And have you noticed changes in ways that you use Evernote since making that transition?
Yeah, I would say it's a bit more, so when I was using it for school situation or college, I was trying to make the note as effective as possible, but I wasn't optimizing features like tags or like the web clipper. So now when I'm in a situation of work and I want to annotate something, for example, send it to the team and just say like, oh, this is great on this website, we should use this for ours, or this is a great blog piece, you should check it out. I'm using the Evernote web clipper more than I was when I was a student. When I was a student, it was just about making the prettiest notes for revision. But now it's a bit more integrated. So I started using tags as well to associate to my sort of energy levels too. So if I've got a note that is like a really long article, like 2,000 words from like, phew, I need to get this done and I need the energy to it, I'll put a proactive tag on it so that I can come back to it later when I've got the energy to complete it. So it's continually adapted, but not in a way that has been a big leap. It's just evolved over time.
Interesting. I know a lot of people have made the transition from student to worker.
Yeah.
Has having had a tool like this been useful for you in that process?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I have a host of resources, which is great. But the one thing, Evernote was the first app that I got, and it's still like the app that I close at the end of my day, which is great. And I use it so often. So it has been like monumental in sort of moving it towards the right way I want to go.
Nice.
Yeah.
As you've brought just productivity thinking in general into your work and with the teams that you're working with, how have you found other people adapting to these strategies, the people that are on your teams?
Yeah, I think a lot of people like, they tend to see what I do and see the results from actually like keeping myself organized to an extent. They sort of like that, so they will pick up some of those strategies. So it does rub off on them. My fiance still uses reminders on her iPhone though, so we just need to have a word with her.
Get her there eventually.
Yeah, eventually every time.
But, you know, in all fairness, she's found
yeah,
something that
no,
works
she
for her.
has found something. I always say, if you found something that works, stick with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no wrong way to do productivity.
No,
I think
no,
that's the most important thing.
There's no wrong way.
And there's always ways that you can enhance what you're doing, that you
Yeah.
can build on the skills and the strategies that you already have.
100%.
And you're never done.
You're never done. Yeah,
There's always room for improvement.
It's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's funny to me because I've been working on productivity for a lot of years, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have this sense that it's like this homework style thing and it's very
Yeah.
arduous. It actually is very freeing, I found for myself and for the people that I work with. When you
Yeah.
find ways to work more effectively,
Yeah.
it's nice. It
Yeah.
makes things easier.
Yeah, it's like running a long race, but then finding ways to improve how your shoes work or how your breathing works. It's just constant improvement.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. If you are just joining us, we are here live in London with Evernote community leader and productivity expert Francesco D'Alessio. If you have questions, feel free to type them into the comments field and we will try to get to them. Francesco, I know that you love Evernote, and thank you for all of that. I know you also use other apps and tools to stay productive.
Sure.
What are some of the ones that you like using throughout your workday? And if you use them together with Evernote, how do you do so?
Sure. So in the mornings, I really like to start with. It's only been 6 months thing so far, and I've done 6 months of it, which has been really mind-blowing. I've used an app called Mindfulness, which is available on iOS. I'm not too sure on Android. I think it is. You'll find an alternative there.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's meditating in the morning for 5-10 minutes. Has been absolutely fantastic. Like, the productivity in my day has soared because my clarity of what I want to do in my day has just cleared up massively. So the benefit of using meditation in the morning has helped. So yeah, that's one of my biggest changes in the last few months.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd say in the last 6 months to a year, I've also been trying to meditate more. And I use my commute time in the morning. I take the train. And so I spend maybe 10 minutes every day listening to a meditation, either podcast or an app. And it really, for me, it has made a big difference. I get into the office and I'm in a much better headspace than if I just listen to music or zoned out. It makes me more mindful of where I am, what I'm thinking about, what I'm doing.
And if you, I don't know about you, I feel a bit more patient with people.
Yeah.
Like, not that I wasn't patient with people before, but I just
There are
feel
levels.
so much calmer.
Yeah. Like, I use the app Calm. I really like that
Calm's
one.
a really
But there's
good
a host of meditation apps
there's
available.
tons, and there's going to be more coming, so that's great.
What are some of your other productivity-related favorites?
I use Todoist on a regular basis, so that is my go-to task management. I'm like one of their biggest users, which is great because I've used it again like Evernote for such a long time. But yeah, that connects up with Evernote as well, so that's quite nice to use. I can clip Evernote notes inside there, so I can quickly access them through a public link.
That's really nice. Yeah, I don't use a separate to-do app. I do all my to-dos in Evernote, but I do use Feedly to clip my articles into Evernote.
Yeah.
So I use it as my RSS reader and clip things that I want to save into Evernote.
I use it too. It's so good, right?
It's awesome.
Yeah, I just don't use the Evernote clipper. I need to upgrade to Pro.
Well, now you have a new excuse too.
I definitely do.
So Megan has a question. Francesco, what is your process for referring back to Evernote through the week to sort from your inbox? How do you go through the inbox once you have stuff in there? What's your process?
Sure. So I have, inside of my Todoist account, I have a reminder that says, clear Evernote inbox. So what I do, Megan, is every time that comes up, every 2 days, I'll go through my inbox and just clear everything. What I'll do to clear it is I won't delete everything. I'll file it into the right location. If there's an action associated to it, I'll pull the action and put it in my Todoist. Or if there's a reminder, so for example, if they're like, I've emailed myself some questions to ask someone, I will put a reminder on them inside of the Evernote function. That way, and also put it in a notebook. But that way, I can then have the reminder pop up when I need to use it, for example. So that's a really handy way, because I tend to clip in about 5 to 10 different pieces a day. So over those 2 days or 3 days, they'll grow to about 30, and I can just quickly do it. The best thing I recommend is batching, because if you batch, it saves you time.
I agree also. So I use a slightly different but similar process. I use Inbox also, and I send everything into Evernote, and usually once a week or so, I'll go in and I'll put things in the right spots. I don't use a separate to-do app, so what I'll do is if a note has something that needs to be done, I'll create a note link and add the note to my to-do list inside of Evernote. So for me, that works, but I definitely think building the regular habit of clearing out your inbox prevents it from getting to this overwhelming state.
And Megan, you might need to just do it weekly, because you might not have a few in there, but as you grow, you can slowly adapt that consistency of clearing it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that way everything stays organized.
That's it,
Which
yeah.
is the whole point of this. You don't want to create another dumping ground. You want to make sure that you get out
A
periodically.
clean dumping ground.
Yeah. And periodically, I mean, I travel a lot for work, so I use my plane time as one of my, let's clear out old stuff from Evernote that I don't need any more time.
Yeah,
And you don't have to do that, but I find it nice, just kind of like maintenance of something that I'm curating.
100%. I do the same, but I do it with my stacks. So that first stack has projects and areas. I'll continually refine those. Ones that are gone, I'll put in archives, and ones that are growing bigger, I'll put in areas. So yeah, it's working. Working quite well.
Nice. We have a question from Eugenia who asks, do you apply a color scheme to your notebooks or like a naming scheme?
I do have a naming scheme. So the stacks start with 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And that way I can have projects appear at the top, areas appear second one. I've done a video on this. I'm sure you guys can link it up somehow.
Yeah.
But it's a good way for me to prioritize stuff. I don't use the colors feature because I'm on Mac.
Yeah, it's only on
Windows. Yeah, but I'm sure it'll come.
Yeah, I actually use just a naming convention, and I use emoji in my notebook
Oh,
names
that's
and in
so
my
good.
notes. Yeah, it's fun, it's visual. Like you can add emoji to a note title or a notebook title.
Oh, I need to do that.
It just adds some life to your notebook list. It's fun. So a couple last questions before we wrap up. So you have an unusual work schedule. You have multiple jobs per se. So I'm wondering, what do you do to achieve the ever elusive work-life balance?
I don't do a good job of it now. I think I've come to terms that I'm not doing fantastically at it, but I'm every day trying to improve. So I went to Barcelona recently, and I met up with some really great co-founders and founders of companies. And they were saying the same thing. Over there, they were focusing trying to build a better work-life balance. As a young person that's come out of university, it's important for me to keep as hard as I can working because I want to go where I want to go because I've got goals. But I have been much better in the last couple of months, clocking out at 5, 6 o'clock just to be a bit more relaxed in the evenings. A good book that I've recently read is called Huggy, I think it is, The Danish Art of Living.
Yeah.
Fantastic book for being able to work out those few things that you can do in the evening to help calm yourself and relax. So me and my fiance will play things like Yahtzee and games like that.
Non-work things.
Non-work things.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. A lot of thought around this now is less work-life balance and work-life integration.
Yeah.
Where we all have work that we're doing and we all have personal things that we're doing and they mesh together more often than not. And if it's supposed to be 50-50, I don't think it will ever be that. It'll always be a little bit more of one and less of the other. Yeah. And it's a constant learning how to mesh the two.
That's it. I sort of base it on a happiness recipe. If I'm happy and the other people around me are happy, then it seems to be working. But always continually to challenge it.
So last question.
Sure.
If you're working with someone who's brand new to Evernote and they just want to get started, what's your top tips for them?
The way that I would recommend for people to get started is really just to, so when you've created your Evernote account, start creating some notebooks for relevant stuff you do. And then what you need to start doing is get into the routine of brain dumping. So whenever something comes into that, whether it's an idea or whether it's a PDF or whether it's an email, just start bringing them into the notebooks you need. Because what you want to do is trying to remove the stuff from your brain and put it into this external brain. Because that way you've got your brain available to do the work or even to have better ideas, to think, to improve. So that's one way. And I had a call with David Allen recently. He was saying the same thing. You need to try and clear your head, try and keep the vision so that you can work towards that versus having to catch up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if they're just getting started with Evernote for their work group or their team, what's the tip for them?
If you're in a team situation, I recommend to make sure everyone is comfortable with the experience because one of the things that you don't want happening is your team to start doing stuff wrong. So make sure that you all sit down, work out a strategy of how you'd like to input stuff into Evernote, make sure that you all understand it and start putting stuff in. Once you're happy with that, just start constantly improving it. So maybe the first week, you sit down and you go, what are the notebooks we're not using? What are the notebooks we are using? How do we divulge, improve that? And then you can start to explore the more intricate side because there is an intricate side and that can be beneficial to your team.
Absolutely. I'd say start simple.
Start simple, yeah.
Always the best way. Well, thank you, Francesco.
Thank you for having me.
It's fun. As a reminder, Francesco is one of our Evernote community leaders, which is part of our community program. If you are interested in learning more about our community programs and how to get started, just visit evernote.growsumo.com. And with that, I'd like to say thank all of you for attending. Thank you to General Assembly for lending us their space. And thanks to Francesco for coming
Thanks
out.
very much for having me. And see you guys soon.
See you later. Thanks, and look forward to more events like these in the future. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.